JoJo Siwa is revealing the deeply personal reason she feels protective over Northwest, and it's not just a casual celebrity friendship or a headline-grabbing comment. It's rooted in experience, empathy, and a shared understanding of what it means to grow up under a microscope. Recently, JoJo opened up about a moment that truly defined this protectiveness. She overheard someone criticizing North's performance in a stage production, and instead of ignoring it, she stopped it in its tracks. She made it clear that negative commentary about a child would not be tolerated in her presence. She said firmly, "Not in my studio," drawing a line that she refuses to let anyone cross. That moment wasn't about drama, it was about principle. It was about an adult deciding that enough is enough when it comes to tearing down kids who are simply trying. And what makes that moment even more powerful is the tone JoJo described. It wasn't a loud confrontation for attention. It wasn't about making a scene. It was controlled, direct, and intentional. She heard the criticism, she evaluated it, and she chose to step in. That decision says a lot about where JoJo is now in her life. She's no longer the child star absorbing the criticism, she's the adult redirecting it. JoJo explained that when she hears adults criticizing a young performer, especially one still figuring things out, it hits close to home. She said she remembers exactly what it felt like to be 10 years old with strangers dissecting everything about her, her voice, her look, her personality, her talent. She remembers reading comments and hearing conversations that would make any child question themselves. She remembers the sting of being misunderstood, and that memory hasn't faded. It hasn't softened with time. If anything, it's become sharper because now she can look back at it with adult clarity. She has spoken before about how confusing it was to grow up with millions of opinions swirling around her. One day she was praised as inspirational. The next she was mocked as annoying. She was either too much or not enough. There was rarely an in-between. And when you're a child, you don't have the emotional tools to process that kind of whiplash. You just internalize it. So when she sees North stepping into performance spaces and then becoming the subject of heated online debates, JoJo doesn't see a celebrity kid playing dress-up. She sees a 12-year-old navigating an environment that can be brutally unforgiving. She sees someone at the very beginning of a journey that can shape confidence or crush it. Northwest has grown up in one of the most public families in modern pop culture. From Fashion Week appearances to viral social media clips, she has been part of the public narrative since infancy. But recently, she's begun carving out her own lane, exploring music, stepping onto stages, participating in creative projects that reflect her personality. And as soon as she does, commentary follows. Some of it is supportive, some of it is critical, and some of it crosses into territory that feels unnecessarily harsh for someone her age. JoJo sees that and recognizes a pattern. She believes that sometimes people don't separate the child from the brand, the kid from the last name. They react not just to what North does, but to what her family represents to them. JoJo described that dynamic as unfair. She pointed out that children don't choose their circumstances. They don't choose fame. They don't choose headlines. They don't choose public opinion. Yet they often carry the weight of all of it. And in North's case, that weight is amplified by the cultural impact of her parents. JoJo's protectiveness also stems from something more intimate. She has known North personally. She spent time with her beyond red carpets and performances. She's seen her laugh, create, and simply be a kid. That perspective changes everything. When you know someone beyond the headlines, the criticism feels more personal. And that's why JoJo's stance isn't about blind defense. She's not claiming North is perfect or beyond feedback. She's making a distinction between critique and cruelty, between discussing a performance and attacking a child's worth. When she challenged the person speaking negatively, she even asked them to name another young performer they were targeting in the same way. When they couldn't, it reinforced her belief that sometimes the criticism is disproportionate. Visibility plays a huge role here. North's visibility is massive. She's not performing at a local recital, she's performing on global platforms, and with that comes amplified reaction. Every note, every movement, every expression can be clipped, shared, and analyzed by millions within minutes. That's an enormous psychological load for anyone, let alone someone who hasn't even entered their teenage years fully. JoJo understands that scale. She remembers when clips of her dances or interviews would go viral. She remembers the memes. She remembers the jokes. She also remembers the pride she felt performing, and how that pride could be overshadowed by a wave of negativity. Growing up in the public eye forced JoJo to mature quickly. She had to develop resilience early. She had to learn media training, branding, public speaking, all while still navigating childhood. She has spoken about how that dual existence, child and business entity, can be disorienting. You're praised for being authentic, but you're also expected to maintain a marketable image. Now, as an adult, JoJo has redefined herself. She has evolved stylistically and creatively. She has stepped away from some aspects of her childhood persona and embraced new artistic directions. And with each evolution came commentary. Some fans struggled with the change, some celebrated it. But through it all, she learned that growth will always be met with mixed reactions. That lesson is one she hopes North can learn without being hardened by it. JoJo wants North to feel empowered to explore without fearing every misstep will become a headline. She wants her to experiment with music, fashion, and performance without internalizing the loudest critics. Public reaction to JoJo's protective comments has been intense and layered. Many people praised her for using her platform responsibly. They saw her intervention as an example of adults in the industry standing up for kids. Others debated whether public figures, even young ones, should be open to full critique. But even in debate, the central theme remained: where is the line when it comes to children? That question extends beyond North. It touches on a broader cultural issue. Social media has created an environment where everyone feels entitled to comment instantly. The barrier between thought and publication is almost non-existent, and children in entertainment are exposed to that immediacy in ways previous generations weren't. There was a time when child performers faced criticism primarily from critics and tabloids. Now they face it from millions of anonymous accounts. The volume alone can be overwhelming. JoJo recognizes that shift. She understands that the digital landscape amplifies everything, praise and hate alike. By saying, "not in my studio," JoJo wasn't just drawing a physical boundary, she was symbolically drawing a cultural one. She was saying that creative spaces should feel safe for young artists, that rehearsal rooms and studios should be places of encouragement, not gossip. She was setting an example that adults in those rooms have a responsibility to protect. North, meanwhile, continues to show a striking level of confidence. Whether she's appearing at major events or sharing her creative interests publicly, she carries herself with a sense of self-assurance that is both impressive and polarizing. Confidence in a young girl can sometimes be misinterpreted as arrogance. JoJo sees it differently. She sees bravery. She sees a child who isn't shrinking to make others comfortable. She sees someone who understands she has a platform and isn't afraid to use it creatively. That kind of presence can unsettle people who expect children to be quiet or invisible, but JoJo believes that boldness shouldn't be punished. There's also something symbolic about JoJo's own brand evolution. Her signature bows once defined an era of childhood exuberance. Now, as she revisits that brand with a more mature perspective, it reflects her journey, honoring her roots while stepping into adulthood. That transformation gives her insight into what it means to grow publicly. She knows that reinvention can confuse audiences. She knows that stepping outside a familiar image can invite backlash. And she knows how important it is to have support during those transitions. That's part of why she feels compelled to be that support for North. Ultimately, JoJo's message centers on empathy. It's about remembering that behind every viral clip is a human being. Behind every headline is a child who still has homework, friendships, insecurities, and dreams. It's about slowing down before turning a young performer into a punchline. In an entertainment culture that often thrives on controversy, JoJo's stance feels refreshingly grounded. She isn't attacking critics, she isn't escalating drama, she's simply asking for perspective. She's asking adults to consider the power imbalance when they criticize a child. Her protectiveness over Northwest isn't about favoritism or clout. It's about solidarity born from experience. It's about looking back at her own childhood and deciding to be the advocate she wishes she had in certain moments. As North continues exploring her passions, she will undoubtedly face more commentary. That's the reality of her world. But knowing that someone like JoJo Siwa is willing to speak up adds a layer of support that matters. At the heart of this story is a simple but profound question. How do we treat children who grow up in extraordinary circumstances? Do we hold them to adult standards, or do we allow them the grace to learn, stumble, and grow? JoJo has made her position clear. She chooses protection. She chooses compassion. She chooses to interrupt negativity rather than let it linger. And in doing so, she sparked a conversation that goes beyond one moment in a studio. Make sure to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more celebrity updates just like this.